the same time help you to find out the different or tap in, rather your own potentials in your life when you are in your journey of success. Okay, so we will start with our session. In the world, we have two kinds of people, you see. One is wise and one is otherwise, you see. We ourselves can see for ourselves. Sometimes we may behave in a very, very wonderful way, or insightful way, which will inspire others. And we only ourselves wonder, how this happened. And sometimes we may behave in some ways which will actually wonder ourselves that how could I behave in such way? Was I so dumb to behave like this? And it may actually, make us cut a sorry figure as well. And why this oscillation in our life happens, you see, it's because of our inner world and the outer world. And we're going to discuss today that only. So today I'm going to go through a journey of this inner world and outer world. So first I'm going to discuss with you the nature of the outer world. And then I'm going to discuss with you the nature of the inner world. And then we will see how to harmonize both of them. So let's begin. So first, I would like to start with nature of the outer world. So I hope all of you are ready. Just type in the comment box, ready. So the nature of the outer world, basically, which is based on ancient wisdom, like Bhagavad Gita says a very wonderful paradox. The search for the pleasure is often the cause of troubles. You see, somebody starts developing unhealthy habits, like, drinking, smoking, or whatever, with respect to drinking, someone, the drinker takes the drink and eventually the drink takes the drinker. You see, the people who seek out pleasure in this outer world often end up meeting with lot of pains rather than pleasure eventually. And we can see this principle happening with all of us eventually in our life as well. You see, and this principle can be applied at different level. For example, someone is eating for pleasure. So when we keep on eating, the body just balloons up, and then we just feel very much miserable about our own selves. So the search of pleasure often causes the greatest troubles, I'm going to share a wonderful story with you. It's very instructive also. You all know Chanakya Pandit and Chandragupta Maurya. Chandragupta Maurya was a very poor kid actually in a village. And he was stabbed in, he was noticed by Chanakya Pandit. And he was brought in Takshashila, a Gurukul, where Chanakya Pandit was one of the Acharya there. And when he was brought in Takshashila for the training, there were different departments in that Takshashila Gurukul of different trainings, Yuddha Niti, Yuddha Shastra and everything. So every department required some fees basically, in those times they were called as mudras to be given. So when Chandragupta Maurya came to know this, he approached his guru Chanakya Pandit and asked him that I don't have anything with me, like I don't have these mudras, and because I'm very poor, how can I give them? Then Chanakya told him that you see for yourself what you want to do out of it, because you want to learn, so you will manage it also. Because Chanakya Pandit exactly knew that Chandragupta will exactly do and get somehow somewhere the fees which is to be given to that particular department. Like for the one, for all departments, it's all together 100 mudras which were required for him actually. So he was very much confused and tense now what to do. And in Takshashila Gurukul, there were actually many opportunities. One such opportunity he came across was, there was an announcement that there is a horse which is very aggressive and has to be brought into control. And whoever brings that horse into control will actually get 100 mudras. And he was very happy to know this fact, that if I actually just bring this in control, horse in control, I would get it. And then he went ahead. But his friends told him that this horse is not an ordinary horse. He's very, very aggressive. He has killed some people and also broken legs and hands of many. Hearing this, he was so fearful, he thought, who will go through all this? So he was again thinking, now in dilemma what to do now. Then some of his friends told that even, instead of trying this, tough way, you can have an easy way out. There are the royal, the sons of the royal order, the kings. They usually give scholarship to one. They are allowed to give scholarship to any one student in the Gurukul, whoever is poor. So practically now every king's son had given the scholarship, only one was remaining, and that was Ambik. So Ambik was not a very good student, though he was very talented and competent, but he was a very wicked student. And Chandragupta knew this. At the same time, he had no option left. So he opted for that option. He went to Ambik and requested him, can you give me scholarship? But Ambik, being wicked, what he did is he told, you should do what I should tell you to do. Then he accepted the proposal because he was helpless. So he accepted that proposal and he went on accepting it. And then after that, what happened is Ambik told him that you should today, wear a dress of a girl and dance in front of all of us. Actually, he was very reluctant to do that. But what to do? He had taken that scholarship money or the fees from him. So he had to do. And after doing that, he was feeling so miserable because everyone was taunting him, laughing at him and, troubling him. And he literally left that place crying. And he was crying beside in the Gurukul. That time his Guru came. And he actually fell at the feet of Guru and started crying, what should I do? I'm just simply lost. So at that time, Chanakya told him a very good principle of life. He told there are two ways to achieve goals in your life. One is simple and one is difficult. The simple path is very attractive, yet it actually distracts us, before even achieving the goal. And the second is very, very difficult path. And it is even painful at times, but it makes you grow in your life and also reach the goal in a very blossoming way. Hearing this, Chandragupta got his answer. He took up the pain of actually bringing the horse into control and won that 100 mudras. And he thus got the admission in all the departments which he was wanting. He got a lesson for his life. And Gita explains this very fact in a very, very interesting way in one of the verses. Let me show you the verse. I'm just sharing my screen here. I hope everybody can see the screen. If you can see the screen, just type yes. So here the verse says, Vishendriya Samayoga Yattadagre Mritopanam Pariname Visham Iva Tat Sukham Rajasam Spritam. So this verse says the happiness which tastes like nectar in the beginning will taste like poison in the end. And such kind of happiness is ignorant happiness or ignorant joy, you see. And there is another kind of happiness which Bhagavad Gita tells. Let me show you that verse also. This is a verse. Yattadagre visham iva pariname mritopamam tam tat sukham sattvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. So here it tells the happiness which tastes like poison in the beginning will taste like nectar in the end. And this kind of happiness is the enlightened happiness or the joy. You can see many things seem to be enjoyable in the beginning, but we should see at the end they may taste like poison or very painful. At the same time, many things may be painful in the beginning. Just like Chandragupta experienced the pain of controlling the horse. Initially it was a painful thing for him. And that's why he didn't go. He opted for the easy thing and he suffered a lot. Is it not? Similarly, in our life also, we will go through that pain. But that pain will eventually bring that joy. There was one example which I would like to quote is like I was talking with one of the boy when I was teaching music basically. I also teach Hindustani Shastriya Sangeet. So that time, this boy was telling that, I was telling that, your swaras are not proper. Your logic of singing is actually not proper, because you have to understand first the positioning of the swaras properly and understand the logic behind the each swaras which has to be kept while singing. So he started telling me that, you just don't get my style. So I was just wondering, that initially, suppose you want to build a stylish building, for example, you may be wanting to have a very, very artistic building at the end. You may have want a very, angular arch or a, pentagonal windows or whatever. And we can all display that, all that artistry on the superstructure of the building, right? But if the foundation of the building has to be on the engineering principles, is it not? But suppose if you bring the artistry during the foundation level and the foundation is not stable, it will collapse eventually. Similarly, if someone doesn't understand the meaning of the swaras, the understanding of the positioning of the swaras, he will not be able to actually further build his own compositions eventually. Is it not? That's why that has to be there. Then once he understands the basic, then eventually he can, include all the, what you can say, the stimulating metaphors like alap, tan, whatever, and murkiya, whatever, like that. So to get the art without craft, is like building a superstructure without any foundation, you see. So a smallest storm may actually, bring down the whole building actually. So that's why learning the craft is very much essential before even pulling out or, presenting the art, and learning the craft is not very pleasurable, let me tell you that. That's why Gita tells about this, that initially the kind of the pleasure you want will be the painful pleasure, will be painful, which is like poison, if you want that higher thing, but it will be nectar at the end. So when you want to learn any type of skills, and this principle applies to all subjects, every subject under the sun, and in every phases of our life, this principle applies. Any type of the skill that will, lead to a tangible achievement, it requires that application, it requires that discipline, it requires that hard efforts and hard work that has to be put. And initially that all things seems to be like poison, but eventually that will bring you that nectar. One will actually grow through that, series of experiencing that pain. One actually grows and experiences that final nectar which is actually awaiting him. One learns something tangible with the help of which one is able to contribute tangibly to the outside world as well. And other kind of the joy, where it is nectar in the beginning, like it's very pleasurable in the beginning, seems very attractive, very pleasurable, but it's poison at the end, it makes one actually just end up becoming otherwise. But if we choose the first one, that is, if we, go through the poison in the beginning and nectar at the end, one actually becomes very wise. That's why I was telling the first, we are sometimes wise and otherwise, you see. So like that. So someone would actually, now put up a point here, that is experiencing pleasure a wrong thing, or is experiencing pleasure literally valueless in our life? Don't you think so? I would say, see, nothing in the world is valueless. Like we eat food, for example. When we eat food, it has taste. Second, it mitigates the hunger. So the taste is the pleasure part, right? So that also gives pleasure, and that is a part of the human nature. Everyone wants pleasure to some extent. Every one of us, there's a part of human life. We want music, we want entertainment, we want everything, that pleasure part. But when one starts perceiving it obsessively, then that becomes a problem actually. So like just growth is a natural thing. Like, we grow from, a child to a boyhood to youth to, a manhood. Everything, the journey is a proper harmonious growth. Then the cancer is also a growth, right? But it grows disproportionately and destroys all other parts of the body as well. Similarly, human pleasure, if they are proportionate to the holistic life's purpose, then they will add flavor to the life. Otherwise, obsession of that particular pleasure will actually ruin one's life. It will make life valueless actually, and it may even take one's life for that sake. like the addiction and all that. That's what brings us to. So now this is the nature of the outer world which we discussed just now. Okay, so are you all clear about it? Just type clear in the chat box if you are clear about it. Yeah, thank you so much. So now let's go to the next part, that is the nature of the inner world. Okay, we saw how outer world is. Now what is inner world composed of? See, the psychologists all over the world are unanimous in acknowledging that we are not our masters, of our own house. This is our house. Sometimes we are not master because sometimes we are impelled to do those things which we are also not intending to do. Is it not that even in Bhagavad Gita it is true? Sometimes we do actions which are against our own will. Do you agree with me? Just type agree if you agree with me the statement also. Okay, and there are different conceptions basically in analyzing this fact which I just now told you, because every single person experiences this in their journey of life. But Gita tells us a 3-level model for this. That is the physical world, that which is outside, the mental world, that which is inside us, and the soul, the Atma, and that is the seer, soul or the consciousness, that is the radiating energy within us. I would substantiate with this and one example out there. Okay, suppose there is a big screen out there in front of you, and you are watching that screen, watching something on that screen. It may be a broadcast or it may be a movie or whatever. So that screen is an interface between you and what you are seeing. Is it not out there? So our inner world has two things. First is the inner screen, which is composed of the mind and intelligence. Okay, and second is the inner seer, that is the soul, the person who is actually the viewing the screen. Okay, so mind refers to the faculty that deals with the emotion, and intelligence deals with the faculty that deals with the faculty of reason. It deals with reasoning. See, everyone actually is composed of these two things, reasoning and emotions. Is it not true? We all like to reason. We want reasonable things in our life. We reason our life. Even a robot can reason for that sake, and it can do it even much better. Take for example your computer only. When you switch on your computer the day, every day in the morning, or wherever you want to work, it greets you. Good morning, Amit. I love you, Amit. Like that. Whatever whatever programming is done at the computer, like that. I'm telling that. But suppose we change the programming. It may change the programming and type. It may type I hate you, and it will just blindlessly tell us back, and I hate you, Amit, like this. So that's the programming. You see, there is no reasoning there. There is no reasoning there. So basically, the rational faculty of our helps us to rationalize, categorize, calculate, analyze the things. At the same time, we need this emotional faculty also to connect with the people, to relate with the people. And that faculty is also needed. So both the faculties are needed, and they are resources of the soul. And the soul is the source of all the consciousness. Some people may be more emotional than rational, and some people may be more rational than emotional. All these things will, different combinations will be there. So for example, we can say the soul is here, and in front of there is the intelligence and the mind or intelligence, whatever. And then through that, the soul communicates to the outer world. The soul is here, and the mind is here, or intelligence is here, and through them, the soul communicates to the outer world. Okay, and that is very important to understand. Let me show you this graphically here. You can see here on the screen. Just type in, you can see if you're able to see the screen. Just say yes. Okay. So on the screen you can see how the soul is the inner seer, and the soul is now acting through the inner screen, and the inner screen, the first person is the intelligence here, you see. So if the intelligence is in the control, okay, we are using our reasoning to channel our direct vision, or channel or direct our vision, is it not? So here we can see how the soul is seeing, the soul's consciousness is coming through intelligence, and then the mind, it looks to outer world, which is beyond the immediate pleasure. It doesn't see the immediate pleasure, it is seeing the consequence. So our motivation is actually, see, our motivation to do something depends on what we see as a consequence. There in the diagram you can see there very clearly. I will substantiate again this also with an example, and it's a very simple example. Suppose you want to do a weight training, or a weight loss training, for example, and then you go to a gym, and there they give a set of weights in front of you, and now you see, my lord, so much weights I have to lift every day, who will do this, and you give up. But suppose you see the result of lifting that weight, you see a person who is a very fit in his body, has a proper shape of his body, then you will get an impetus to actually, put in efforts to actually lift that weights, do the weight training or whatever, So see, if we focus too much on the efforts that is required to do some things, we may give up very immediately, very soon. But if we focus on the result that is going to come out of that, our impetus to do that will be more. Is it not? So our vision determines our motivation to do the things. You see, when our intelligence is in control and our mind is subordinate to our intelligence, then we just don't look for the immediate pleasures around us. We actually look for the consequence, what is going to happen. Is it not true? Just type true. When we say intelligence is the controller and mind is subordinated by the intelligence, then our actions will be depending on the consequence, of the actions. Then our actions will be really very wise. Is it not? Like, for example, many of you are students here. Like, if you're studying for the exam, you may feel it is so boring. Studying is so boring thing. It's not ecstatic at all. And we just give up the studying. But if you realize that the consequence of studying nicely, I will get good marks and I will fetch a good job, and eventually I will, have a better future. I will have a life which I have dreamt of. Then actually putting actions will be, then you will get an impetus to put in right actions in that journey of studying. Is it not true? And what will happen is, when you see that consequence, that impetus will help you to persevere through that pain also. You will undergo that pain. That pain which you are going to undergo, the initial pain which we are saying about, you see, that initial pain will have perseverance to actually handle that, will have that fortitude to handle that. On the other hand, for example, the mind is subordinate, mind is the controller and intelligence is subordinated, then it will look for the immediate pleasures. We'll agree on that, right? For example, I'll give a very graphic example which every one of us might have encountered in our own lives. Suppose you are studying for the exam, tomorrow is the exam, and suddenly, you get a notification on your mobile, your friend has updated his Facebook profile photo. Oh, so it's so nice, I will just see what photo he has uploaded. It's very nice, interesting. So I just go on the Facebook profile photo and see, oh, it's very nice photo. Let me check, what, oh, another photo. Let me see his all upcoming new photos which is uploaded. So we just go on seeing the new photos. Oh, then we see that there are some new videos which has posted. Very nice, very nice. Let me see those videos also. When you end up seeing the videos also, okay. And then what happens is that we see somewhere else, some other videos are also popping up, beside the screen. Then this looks very interesting and very educative. Let me see this also. And we end up wasting 5-6 hours in that. And we realize, oh my Lord, what I've done? I've wasted the time. We beat ourselves, like, what have I done? And we are unprepared for the exam, and then we do poorly in the exam, and it just, you see, the consequence is poison. Seems like nectar initially, new photo, but poison at the end. Is it not? Exam not going, nicely. Therefore, when intelligence is in control, we focus on the consequence, and that's why we choose the actions wisely, and therefore we act wisely. On the other hand, we are otherwise. We are not wise, actually speaking. Okay. Like people say, enjoy your life right now. But what after that now gets over? That's the question, right? See, we want to live in the moment, not for the moment. We live in the moment for a better future. We live in the moment for a higher purpose tomorrow. Is it not true? But when the mind is in control, it says that no, I want this right now. I want this. It's like a child, the child's state is similar to this. It's something like, they will delight. If they like it, they will delight. If they don't like, they just start crying. And they sometimes demand the things which are immediately pleasurable to them. Then the parents tell them no. The parents act like an intelligence there, and they say no, you will not get it. Am I right? Has this happened with you also? Just type yes if it has this happened to you also. Okay. Eventually, you will also see that you will. Currently, you may be even bachelors out here. You will also become parents eventually. But right now, you have to become your own parents. You see, and your intelligence is like that parent. It's like an adult which will guide you. So the essential turbulence in our life, in the teenage or the adolescence or the youth, is the tussle is between the mind and intelligence. You see, and when the intelligence takes over, it is it will bring out abundant opportunities and breakthroughs in our life. But when the mind takes the control, it will squander all the opportunities. Okay, like that. So this is how, and every action for that sake is not, is not an action in isolation. You see, let me tell you this also. Every action when we do, it's not an action in isolation. It forms an impression in the mind, and it forms the future proposal also for future actions. Like for example, a graphic example again I'll give. Suppose you visited sports.com, sports.com, sports.com. You have visited this website many times. For example, I'm just giving an example. Okay, so and suppose now you have come to such an inspiration lecture like this, or a talk like this, or attend a spiritual talk. You're very inspired and you want to know more about spirituality in your life and all. So you may again go home and visit the spirituality.com, for example. So now when you start typing SP, the first thing that will come is what? Anybody on the chat box? You have already visited sports.com, sports.com. And now you want to go to spirituality.com. So the first thing that will come is sports.com only. Because that is, what you can call is autocomplete proposal, of the computer itself. Actually, exactly same applies on the mind. You see, in our inner world, every choice that we make becomes a proposition for the future. If one it keeps on making bad choices, unhealthy choices in the life again and again, it doesn't remain a proposition anymore. It becomes the homepage only. You see, someone is suppose YouTube addict or Facebook addict. The first thing he wakes up in the morning, and the first thing in the browser of the mind that comes is he just opens up the YouTube or the Facebook and just starts browsing and goes on and on, wasting his valuable time in the morning itself or whatever time he is in. So it's unhealthy compulsion, unhealthy habit, and that's how our mind is when mind is in control. But you see, mind is not a programmed machine. You see, mind is a programmable machine. You can program it, you can reprogram it, and suppose, for example, one more example related to the previous one only, with the previous understanding what we were discussing. Suppose in a group of corporate circle, they are calling you for the party, and you went for the party, and you say, they're offering you some drinks or smoke, and you say, no, I don't want it. You reject that proposal. But you see, what goes through the eyes is as impactful as what goes through any other senses also, like tongue or whatever. That means from the mind's perspective, every choice becomes an impression. Whether you have done action or made a choice or whatever it is, it may be a physical choice or a visual choice or whatever, it forms an impression. And that's why some impressions when they are formed, whatever impressions they are formed, they are going to be the future proposals for all of us. And we have to be very, very conscientious to actually resist them. We cannot just say yes to anything and anything that actually, comes on our inner screen, you see. So this is what, inner world is all about. This is how the inner world actually works, you know. So just type in clear if you understood this inner world concept. Okay. So after understanding what is nature of the outside world and what is the nature of inner world, let us see how to harmonize both of them. Okay. See, sometimes, people may say that, you may feel that, people are rejecting you or taking you for granted, or they're ill-treating you and, treating you cheaply or exploiting you. If one person says that, you may get angry on him, or, whatever, the issue can be solved. If but 2 or 3 or 5 or, many people are telling you this, the same thing. The problem is with whom? The people or you? The problem is with me. Is it? If the people are telling me that, they are not liking me, or they're taking me cheaply, they're taking me for granted, and I am feeling like that, it's not just one person or many, many people are doing that to me. The problem is with me. But if we tell that, no, the world is, filled with filthy people, then what we are doing? We are actually avoiding to take responsibility, and it is quite disempowering. And if we want to change the world, I will tell good luck to all of you, because you can't change the world. But when you accept, it will be little bit disheartening in the initial stage that, you are accepting that, people are mistreating me, and, the problem is with me actually, not with the outer people, world out there. But it is empowering also. Why? Because you can change yourself. You can change your inner world. You can't change the outer world. The outer world is, deceptive. It has deceptive nature of things that looks very pleasurable initially, but is very troublesome. And it has things which are actually fulfilling and are initially very demanding. So now this outer world, can it be changed? Just type yes or no. Can we change the outer world? No, we can't change the outer world because it's very difficult. The outer world will be as it is, whatever it is. And what we can do is we can fix our inner world, because fixing inner world, is very, very easy than fixing outside world. This connection, I would like to bring 3 concepts. One is weakness, another is wickedness, another is virtuousness. See, weakness every one of us has. For example, I met one person and he had decided that I will not become angry at all. He had taken a resolution and he started getting angry on the top of it. And then one person told him, you had decided that you were not getting angry and you're not going to get angry. Then you know what he told? Yes, I'm not getting angry. He's telling like that, exclaiming in an angry voice. But yes, and he's telling that in an angry voice. You see, when we become angry, it's like it's a battle basically between our mind and our intelligence itself. We are not able to decide at that time. Bhagavad Gita has a full higher level of understanding basically of anger, how it deals with our mind and intelligence. How intelligence is completely destroyed when we get angry. So the mind overpowers the intelligence and then we get angry and everything goes haywire, you see. So, but the weakness can be actually rectified also. And weakness deserves forgiveness, because what happens in weakness, we are trying to overcome it. We are struggling with it. We are actually fighting against it. In that what happens, the mind overpowers the intelligence for some time, and it becomes very confusing to act at that time because they are impulsive actions. But wickedness is exactly opposite to the weakness. In wickedness, one becomes, the mind enslaves the intelligence completely. In weakness, one becomes hot-headed, and wickedness, one becomes cold-blooded. You know, I will tell you one more example which happened. There was a quarrel that was happening. It was misunderstanding, conflict going on actually between the two persons. Like I will just quote them as A and B. So A was quarreling with B, and it was a mediator who was sitting and telling them, just don't fight. So the A was quite understanding and telling B that, okay, I understand, you're angry, please forgive me. So that, what B tells him, the B tells him that, anger is an expensive emotion. You are not worth it. So, when I heard this statement, I was like, such a dismissive and derisive attitude, it's very difficult to reconcile such people, you see. So you may all know that the bombing which happened, you see, in Bombay Taj Hotel, there were so many people that were killed. That is an exact example of wickedness again. They caught vulnerable people and massacred them ruthlessly. So that is very dangerous. Wickedness is a very, very dangerous emotion. And to give forgiveness to wickedness is foolishness. At times, weakness can be forgiven, but not wickedness. Because what happens is wickedness, they completely deaden their conscience basically. They just feel that what they are doing is actually right. The mind overpowers the intelligence, and intelligence is completely enslaved, completely. And usually in weakness, what happens, there is an inner war between us, inner war between the mind and intelligence, and there is a hope for improvement. But here there is no war at all. There is no inner war in wickedness, because the mind has completely taken over the intelligence. So the inner war is completely finished, and intelligence is exactly acting according to the devilish plans which the mind has made to actually hurt others. That is wickedness, the tendency or the desire to actually hurt others, to give pain to others. So they do the actions remorselessly basically, and it's very dangerous. So we may also go in this direction. So that's why we should avoid this wickedness also, because there are chances that our weakness may turn into wickedness, because there's a very thin hairline there. And another aspect is virtuousness. So in virtuousness is where the intelligence is the main person. He is in control, and the mind is the aid. Mind is subordinated under intelligence. And then when the action comes, they are with the future consequence, what is going to happen, and they are wisely done. And that's why here where spiritual practice comes into picture. So spiritual practice has two aspects. One is philosophy and one is practice. Just type in philosophy and practice, every one of you. So this spiritual practice, what it does, let us go one by one. The philosophy strengthens us, and the practice gives us the higher, what you can say, higher experience, higher level experience, which the mind wants. A graphic example again. Suppose A and B are having a wrestling match, for example, arm wrestling. Suppose if you want to win, make A win, what we can do? We can either strengthen the A and weaken B. Just consider A as intelligence and B as mind. Okay. So spiritually, both the things are possible. Okay, we can do both the things. How? See, the philosophy strengthens our intelligence. It makes us analyze the things. It makes us understand the things. Yes, this is going to happen in this way. If we do this, these are things going to happen. If we do this, these things will going to happen. So we know the things in advance, and then we accordingly choose our actions based on the consequence. And that actions will be very wisely. For example, wisely chosen. For example, your house is robbed many, many times, and you are not able to find out, who is the thief. Then what happens? You start analyzing, where the thief is, where he's exactly coming from. Then you come to know that there is a window which is there, and then that window is actually broken, is where the thief is actually coming in. So once you know and understand the things, you will actually start repairing it, and then the robbery will be stopped. Similarly, philosophy gives us an understanding of what is happening around us, what is happening in the outer world, what is happening in the inner world. That is a spiritual philosophy. The one aspect. And the weakness of the mind. the mind becomes weaker. Means what? We have to weaken the mind means what? It's not the, it's not just giving up on emotions, but actually it's rather purifying our emotions. Okay, how to purify our emotions? Currently the emotions are, maybe putrefied or, contaminated or whatever, but the mind becomes weaker, and it's because of the impulsiveness which it has. And its impulsiveness reduces, or the impulsiveness becomes weak when we give it or an experience of a higher pleasure, you know. And what is the higher pleasure? Just before coming to the lecture, you heard beautiful sweet kirtans. So kirtan yoga is one such aspect, which is, the spirituality offers us, the mantra meditation, the kirtan yoga, you know. For example, a child is crying. He comes from the school and he sees a vada pav stall outside and he wants a vada pav. His mother telling, no, I'll not give you. She brings him home and she does a beautiful, with her own hand, she cooks a nice vada pav in the house with good oil and everything, and then gives the child. So he gets a higher experience basically. So he forgets that vada pav which is outside in that stall, because he has got something very beautiful from her own mother hand. And she also gives him nice gulab jamuns and rasagullas to eat. I know your mouth will be watering now. So this how, by giving higher experiences to our mind, our impulsiveness of the mind will start reducing. And Kirtan Yoga gives you that higher experiences. Okay. And because what? Because the Kirtan Yoga is the mantra, the meditation on the mantra. And what is mantra? Manastrayate iti mantra. That which delivers the mind. From what? From all the stress, anxiety, and everything. Mind is a storehouse of all the millions of impressions. And those millions of impressions gives us future proposals for future actions eventually as we study. Is it not true? And that is very dangerous at times if those impressions are not right and having proper values and ethic behind it. And that's why this higher experience, such as the mantra meditation and kirtan yoga, helps us to free all of us from that stress and anxiety, and helps us write newer scripts in our mind. It helps us to be in active relaxed state. In fact, the research shows that it calms the amygdala. Amygdala is the limbic system of the brain, for the brain, which plays a key role in controlling all the emotions, basically. So it calms it down, It helps us becoming more empathetic towards the people. It helps us becoming more focused, more creative. It helps us improve our relationships. It significantly enhances our productivity. Whatnot, it helps us and gives us an ability to think creatively and even takes other people's perspective into consideration. So many benefits, ample benefits you will see just by this, technique of meditation of Kirtan Yoga. It's one of the meditation technique, and I'm going to make you experience this today. Steve Jobs, you see, an early adopter of meditation, he also describes this. He describes his experience as, that he tells that, you start to see things more clearly and be in the present more. Your mind becomes more stable and focused in doing the things in your life. So that's what Steve Jobs also said, because he also had come to India before even starting Apple to just find a purpose of the life. And then that time when he adopted the technique of meditation, he got such a clarity in his mind, and that eureka experience which he got after meditation was what he shares with the entire world today. Similarly, we will also be able to do that. And right now we are going to do that with every one of us. Right now, everyone are, right now everyone is going to actually do this meditation, do this kirtan yoga. So I'm going to play a small kirtan of 8 minutes, and I request everybody to please sit on their seats. Please take a earphone and sit and just relax yourself. Just don't worry about anything for these 8 minutes. Relax in your situation wherever you are in. Sit in one place and just hear the music. Enjoy the music. Relish the music. This is the pleasure. Everyone wants pleasure. So this is a higher pleasure we are going to give the mind today. Okay? The experience of the Kirtan Yoga. To reduce our own impulses. Let us start. I'll just share my screen out here. And you will all share the experiences which you got in nutshell in your Just close your eyes. Or you can even see on the screen the beautiful images of the Lord.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Hare 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 Ram Rama Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Ram Hare Hare Hare
I hope everybody have relished it. Just type in your experience. How was your experience while hearing? Did you really feel that this was the kind of higher experience every one of us need in today's influential world around us? Yes, I can see it's a bliss. Yes, it's an ecstatic bliss. And this particular such kirtans and such kirtans will take you at a really higher levels altogether, which you can't even imagine. And since it is it has the powerful mantra behind it, it's also purifying. The sound vibrations which are there, since they are the holy names of the Lord himself, that's why they are potent. It's just like a medicine. You might have taken a lot of medicines. You might have taken paracetamol. Have you ever seen what is the contents of paracetamol? No, nobody has seen. But still you take it and you get cured of the fever. Is it not true? Similarly, kirtan is such a medicine. In the scriptures, it is told it's like an aushadham. It's like a medicine. When you take it, your internal fever, the fever of bad habits, the fever of unhealthy intentions just goes away. It just sublimates altogether. This is an effect, and that's how we feel. All of you are feeling very touched. You're feeling very incredible or whatever, and you're feeling relaxed. I can see your comments. So it's very nice. Thank you so much for your comments there, and sharing your experience. So when we discipline ourselves in our life, whenever we discipline our actions through our intelligence, then we can actually see the consequence of what is happening and choose the actions wisely. And this is what the message is today. And we can harmonize both the inner world and the outer world also. And we can actually flourish in our outside world to a greater extent. I thank you so much for being today this evening and paying so much attention to this seminar and session. Back to the organizers.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for the enlightening words, Prabhuji, and ecstatic kirtan. Devotees and participants can follow Prabhuji on social media. The links to all of his social media accounts are put in the chat box. Shortly, I will also be sharing a link on which devotees can give their feedback about the seminar. Now, Prabhuji, as awaited, devotees have some questions and they seek your answers onto that questions, Prabhuji.
Yes.
So before presenting the questions, I would like to tell the devotees that if you have questions, please put them up onto the chat box and send them to me. And I will present them to Prabhuji. So shall we begin, Prabhuji?
Yes, please.
Yes, Prabhuji. The first question is asked by Anuradha. She is asking, some people disturb us a lot and make us very angry. Later, we are a lot disturbed. So in such situations, how to tackle?
By those people, we are a lot disturbed, right?
Yes, yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, oftentimes we are in an influential situation like this, wherein we are at our calm, but we get influenced by the people around us. Okay, so it's very important that, again, when such influencing situation comes in front of us, it's our choice whether we have to allow those influence to come within us. That we can control very much. We cannot control the person who is influencing us, but oftentimes what we do, we try to control him. But we, on the other hand, should, as we are calm, as you said in the question, so with that calmness, you should not allow that person to enter and influence your own mind. And that can be happening with the due intelligence and the choice which you make at that point of time. Either disengage yourself at that time from that situation and select some other situation, or just remain calm. On the other hand, when you are in a position to actually tell that person, then you can even request that person by either enlightening him or either telling him what you desire or what you expect. I hope that answers your question.
Hare Krishna. Please, if that answers your question, you can type yes on the chat box. Shall we move on to the next question, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji. The next question is by Pawan Prabhu. He is asking, at certain situations, we are very vulnerable. We lose the ability to think logically and act according to the mind's wind. And after wasting time, we think properly. Why does the intelligence become weak at this point?
Correct.
Is the question clear, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
Should I say again?
No, it's clear to me.
Okay, Prabhuji.
So the question is, at times we become vulnerable to the situations outside us. Yes, it's very true that we may become vulnerable at the times when the influencing situations may arise in us, though we may sometimes have exhibited quite a healthy outcome or a healthy output also. So I would tell that, see, there are three ways basically we can help ourselves. I would like to give an example of a wood here. Suppose a wood is wet, it may not burn easily. But if the wood is dry, it may burn immediately. And if the wood is half wet and half dry, it will burn, but it will burn slowly. So our experience in our lives are also like that. To the degree we are, what can we say? Wet. The wetness is indicative of the, influence of the materialism around us. Okay. So to the degree we are materially influenced, we will be immediately become vulnerable to the outside influences which will be coming. But to the degree we are dry, we will not be affected. Is it not? To the degree will not be affected means the dry means it will be immediately burnt off. Burnt off means what? The burning is indicating of the spiritual impetus basically. So the wood is meant for burning properly. If it is wet, it is not burned properly. I will again organize in a proper way here. The burning of the dryness is indicated by, suppose we are first, very, very much spiritually inspired in our life, very much nicely associating with the people. But in the wet, when we are too much wet means what? Which too much materially influenced, then we'll be immediately become vulnerable to the surroundings around us and immediately become affected by the surroundings. So the good way to get spiritually, empowered is to associate with the people around, associate with the people who are spiritually also stimulated, spiritually empowered. That will help us very much, what you can say, against the vulnerability around the world or against the materialism getting affected to us. Okay. And one thing what happens when we are in the spiritual circles or the people who are spiritually empowered is we ourselves also become empowered because of their empowerment. They have an ability to empower us. And then we are able to take the decisive actions at that time. I hope this answers your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Shall we move on to the next question, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji. The next question is by Ashutosh Prabhu. Prabhuji is asking that since God is the controller of everything, He is the one who puts us into Maya and sends us out of the spiritual path. Why does He do that if He loves us?
Okay. Yes, He loves us, and that's the reason He does that. In the scriptures, it is told that whatever path we choose, this will be the result. If we choose this path, this is the result. If we choose this path, this will be the result. You see? And, it's just like, I will give an example of a tuition teacher and a parent. For example, if the child is not listening to the parent puts him, the tuition teacher, and the tuition teacher actually beats him sometimes, thrashes him strongly. And the parent may not be able to do that very perfectly because they love the child. And that's the reason they want him to go to the tuition teacher, because they want him to learn. They want him to actually improve in that particular subject, which he is not willing to do when he is with the parents, because he's not listening to them. That's why the God arranges, the miseries in our life, depending upon whatever actions we do, depending upon whatever deeds we do. And that He arranges so that we learn a lesson out of it, so that we can make right choices again. So that's what it is. I hope that answers.
Hare Krishna. If it answers your question, please type yes. Prabhuji, those are the questions that have come until now. There are some more questions, Prabhuji. I'll go to the next question. One question has just arrived right now by Vaishali. She is asking, sometimes we use intelligence to take decisions. Very next moment, you think about the decision you made and fall into dilemma. How to get out of these situations?
Sometimes we make decisions, and after making the decisions, you fall into dilemma whether you have really taken the right decision
Right
or
decision.
not.
Yes,
Is
Prabhuji.
it not? Yeah.
Yes.
So usually when we take decisions, there are two types of responses. Basically, one is the snap decisions, which are taken immediately without giving it a thought, and that snap decisions are taken based on the emotions. And the other type of decisions, that is the thoughtful decision, is taken on the basis of intelligence. Okay, so whenever we have taken the decisions or we are wanting to take decisions, we should first think beforehand taking the decision. But now when it has already been taken, then we are in a dilemma whether we have taken it right or wrong. Then we can actually refer to some experts whether those decisions are right or wrong. And if we are in a position to change that, we can actually change that decision, which will benefit the people. But if we are not in a position, we can request. This is what we can do. Yes, Kanan?
Yes, Prabhuji. I think that answers the questions, Prabhuji.
Okay, fine.
So these were the questions that have come until now. If devotees have some more questions, please put them up onto the chat box and send them to me, or you can put it publicly so that Prabhuji can answer your questions. I think that are all the questions, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji, there's one question that has come up. I will read it out to you as it is. The question is, I am a software programmer and have worked as a programmer for 13 years. Now I have some tasks which I am not able to complete because I started to hate my job. And also, I am not intelligent enough to complete those tasks because everyone has some limitations. I cannot improve my skills to complete those tasks. I am not interested in doing any job that involves using brain. I am not married, so don't have big commitments now. I am aged 36. I am planning to quit my job and spend my time in chanting. Is my decision correct?
Okay, fine. Very
Roji,
good
should I
question
read
at this
the
age.
should I read the question again?
I got the question.
Okay, Roji.
Usually this is, the question which arises eventually as we grow in our age, that, we start seeking answers for our own actions itself. That the very first question we ask is about our job only, what we are doing currently. So when it comes to understanding that aspect, it is also important that what strengths we have. Like now you are telling that you are 36. 36 not is a big age, basically. You're not so old. Still you have a lot of time with you. But at this point of time, I would like to tell you, one very important advice, like how to choose, your, what you can say, or decide your career, future career, whatever you want to do in the future. That's what you are wanting to know. So, but deciding on future career decides on three aspects. Okay. First is the problem. Second is the potential, and third is the process. See, problem is understand what is the problem you can solve. Actually, look at the problems in the society that is happening, and in fact to you only. What problems you yourself are facing, and you have the most, what you can say, the urge to solve a particular problem, and then see what potentials do you have to solve those problems. Whether you have that potentials, if you don't have, you can cultivate that skill or talent or abilities, whatever it's required, to equip yourself with that right potential to solve that problem. And then choose the right process. Ask yourself that, do I know a process which will actually help me to, which is justifiable according to the scriptures and the Shastras with the moral principles that can help solve these problems? You know? Yes, I can agree with you that chanting is the best solution to all. At the same time, that chanting will help you to give a purpose to your life in terms of actions also. You know? So you can continue your meditation which you're doing. And so I appreciate you for that. At the same time, you can also understand these aspects through that chanting, how you are going to solve the problems of the life, and then meditate on these three aspects which I told: the problem, the process, what potentials do you have, to solve that particular problem, and work on that a bit. you know at this till this age, you might have surely acquired some of the skills. Every one of us have come here with a purpose in the life. No one is without any purpose, and everyone has the potential to contribute significantly in the outside world. Let me tell you that. I myself was a software engineer, you know some years back, but then I personally decided that the job which I was doing will be done by many others. Is it not true? But if I give this message of Gita to the people, how many will do that? And that's when I decided that this knowledge should be given to many who need it in the today's time and need of the hour. And that has helped many people, let me tell you that frankly and honestly. So that's why you should also select a process depending upon your potential, which will solve the problem. I hope that answers your question.
Hare Krishna. I hope that answers your question, Prabhuji. Now, the next question, Prabhuji, is by Chiranjit Prabhu. He's asking, there are a lot of mind-disturbing videos. So how to deal with them? Prabhuji has not completed the question. He has only posted, there are a lot of mind-disturbing videos. So I have taken the liberty of putting how to deal with them there, Prabhuji. If that is not the case, you can re-put your question, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Sorry, I didn't get what is the thing.
The question is how to, there are many mind disturbing videos. So I think he is asking how to deal with them, Prabhuji. That is, he has sent only, there are many mind disturbing videos.
Mind disturbing videos, okay.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Again, the same thing. Our actions depends on our choice what we make, not what people make choice for us. Is it not? If we have our purpose clear, if we have our goals clear, if we have our principles of life clear, then our choices will be very clear, what to choose and what not to choose. Then you need not see those videos, rather see such videos which will inspire us. There are plenty of them which will inspire you also. I hope that answers this question. Yes, next.
Yes, Prabhuji. I am seeing that some of the devotees are asking about the online Gita course.
Yeah, it will be launching soon.
Yes, Prabhuji.
It's a leadership mastery with ancient sutras. It will be launching soon,
yes,
next
Prabhuji.
month. So surely I'll keep you intimated.
Yes, Prabhuji. Apart from that, some devotees also want to know about the everyday Gita course that is conducted by ICC. So for those devotees, I am going to put up the link to the WhatsApp group of the Gita program in the chat box. Please, you can join the link of the Gita course first, and then you can attend the Gita course. It is an everyday course that happens at 7 p.m. in the evening. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, there's one question here, I guess.
Yes,
how
Prabhuji.
can we consistently do this process of training our intelligence?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Is it not? And if something diverts us from it, what should we do?
Yes, Prabhuji. I was coming to that question, Prabhuji. You can answer it.
So, the consistency in our life comes by focus. The consistency in our life comes by when we are clear. See, if when we are clear of our goal, focus comes and consistency comes as a byproduct in actions. Okay, and that focus can be brought initially deliberately by thinking of what is our purpose, which I just now shared about problems, potential, and process. This will give you the purpose. You can decide the purpose based on this of your life, and then you'll be consistent. But to remain consistent also, there are many divergence, but their divergence will will not help us in our life, rather deviate more and more on a different tracks altogether. And for that sake, we need to remain on the track with the proper association of the people. You know, that association will help us. You see, I will give an example of this particular thing. Suppose, you know, suppose you are in a function where there is a buffet system. Okay. Now, in that buffet system, another person is you're taking some ingredients of food, whatever you want in your plate, and you're going ahead. And there is one more ingredient which is there in that, which you don't know what it is. You've never tasted it. You just pass on. You just don't look at it also because you don't know it. And you're not tempted also to take it in your plate. But suppose behind you there is one more person, one of your friend only, who is coming in, and he knows that what it is. So immediately takes in his plate and tastes it, and he says that it's very delicious. So immediately you turn back and you just see him and tell, oh, it's really delicious, let me taste. So you also take it then. You see, initially you are not aware of that, but now you became aware of that because of that person actually tasting that food. See, the whole advertising industry is also based on that only. It makes someone put on the screen, some star or cinema star or whatever, and do something which will make us feel that we need it. Initially we may not have the need of it, but by seeing them we'll develop the desire that we will need it. Now this is called as a triangular effect of desires. You see, now if we just tantamount this in our situation, wherein we can see that when we associate, now I'm taking it positively, not negatively. There is a negative connotation to it also and positive connotation to it. The positive connotation to it is that when here, because of the association of our friend who we saw that, and then we developed a desire. Sometimes when we are low in our desires and our impetus to do things, when we associate with the people who are doing similar things in a very nice way, that again gives us the impetus to put in our efforts in a more beautiful way. As you asked the question that sometimes some things divert us. So that divergence, we should actually take up such help wherein we see them and get inspired and continue our consistency on that, training of our intelligence or whatever vision or mission you have in your life. I hope that answers your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, we have two more questions. First question is by Akhil Prabhu. He's asking, how do we handle stress at work?
So when we are at work, it's like, it's very important to understand I can say the 4 aspects of our life, the physical quotient, the intellectual quotient, the emotional quotient, and the spiritual quotient. I will say it is the PIES, PIES, the PIES of life. Okay, so our stress usually comes because of the imbalance in all these aspects. So the physical aspect is called as, the achar. Bhagavad Gita speaks about it. Yukta ahara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasya, yukta swapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. Is it not? When we are yukta means intelligence. We are applying our intelligence in doing the things, in eating, sleeping, our recreation and our work. Everything is regulated. That brings us a lot of happiness at a physical level, pleasure at a physical level. At the intellectual level, we should read the wisdom literatures, which will give us the proper intellect of discriminating right and wrong. It is called Viveka Buddhi. So that is called as a sadhana. And then PIE is emotional. That emotion comes by associating with the people around us, associating with the devotees, the satsanga. It's called satsanga. Means what? We should do satsanga with the sadhus, with the devotees who are actually practicing spiritual culture in their life, and that will inspire us to actually also follow practice in our life. And at the same time, spiritual. Spiritual means actually you yourself practice these things in your own life at a regular basis, chanting, the meditation, the mantra meditation, reading of scriptures on a daily basis. Yes, of course. So all these aspects. So when these four pies are balanced, four things, the physical quotient, the intellectual, the emotional, and the spiritual are balanced. The amount of stress which comes on a daily basis, we're able to tackle it. Please see, the stress will never go. The example of an ocean, and the boat in the ocean is very much significant here. You see, the boat is in the ocean. The ocean waves will never stop. They will keep the boat, moving and shaking. But that shakiness will reduce when we anchor our boat to these four aspects in a very balanced way. And that's what is necessary. I hope that answers your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
I hope that the devotee's question is answered. We have one last question for today, Prabhuji. The devotee is asking that if somebody is a non-vegetarian but performs devotional service, is Krishna pleased with him, or does Krishna accept him?
Is that the question? Okay, I'll answer. So, Krishna is Bhavagrahi Janardhan. He's told as Bhavagrahi Janardhan. He accepts our intent behind our actions. Okay. Now, that should not be a loophole also at the same time to avoid the instructions which he has been enunciated in the scriptures. Is it not true? That in our life, we should be merciful to the people around us, and not just people, everyone, to the animals and everyone. At one stage, we can eventually even give it up, but Krishna will not be angry on you just because you're eating non-veg. Okay. Initially, you may have the desire to eat it, but as you start, you are realizing that how there is a principle of mercy to every living entity around us, not just with our family members and not just to our friend circle, but the whole universe is actually the creation of that same God, and we are all connected to the God, even the animals for that sake. Then when that understanding comes, eventually the desire to even harm them will not be there. And that's how spiritual practices will help us evolve in our understanding. And our practices, our acharan also. Just before question, I spoke about yukta ahara viharas. We should be regulated in our eating. Regulated means what? We should apply our intelligence even in eating what has to be eaten. What should be our ahar? How should be our ahar? In our sleeping and everything. So that is one aspect. Another aspect is and whenever we do things with the right intention, with the right motives, then Krishna is surely pleased enough with us, and that evolution will happen slowly. So I recommend you start your spiritual practices and start associating with devotees more and more, and eventually your evolution of thoughts will surely please Krishna more and more. And now also, just by hearing all these things and just by accepting the spiritual understandings and the principles mentioned in the ancient wisdom, Krishna is pleased with you. That's how it is. I hope that answers your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So meanwhile, we just got one more question, Prabhuji. I just want to ask this question as well. So this question is by Rajshekar Prabhu. He is asking, he experienced disturbance in his mind during chanting. How to overcome this?
This is a very, you can say, a common situation with everyone. You see, mind, as we said, that is a storage of hundreds and thousands and millions of impressions. And one or the other time, they are going to come up. And what happens during chanting, especially during meditation, what happens is we go deep into meditation means we are also supposed to deal with the thoughts. We cannot just go, not deal with them and, just go ahead. But we have to deal at times. But how that dealing should be is also very important. So I will do two aspects to it. You know, one aspect is, two examples. One example is, for example, you are cleaning a room. When you're cleaning a room, lot of dust rises above, you see, and in that you are sometimes not able to see your own self also. That much dust is there, and it just uh, makes you cough or whatever. But eventually that whole dust goes and the room becomes very clean. Similarly, chanting, all the desire starts coming up. Even the desires which you never even thought, where did this desire come from? You may sometimes wonder, I never thought of this. That also may come at that point of time. So at that time, we just have to be patient enough, to let go that, dust which is there, and eventually it will get clear. But we should continue chanting. Second analogy which I would like to give is, suppose, a person is troubling you, for example. If you pay attention to that person, he will trouble you more and more. But if you neglect him, at some point of time, he will just go. You see, that's how we have to deal with our mind also. We just have to neglect it at that point of time, the desires. We don't have to pay attention to those desires. We have to neglect them. And we have to focus on the mantra. We have to focus on that holy name at that point of time when we are chanting. Hearing that holy name. Because mind needs an activity all time, okay, to build new impressions. If we start focusing on those impressions and not the impressions which are currently giving by our action, naturally those impressions will be magnified. But if we start focusing on the current chanting and hearing the holy name, naturally this will be amplified and that impression will be stronger. And that is how the mind will be in control and will not feel disturbed even during chanting. This is how I also practice during my chanting. So I'm just sharing it with you. I hope that answers your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. I would like to thank Amal Kirtan Prabhu, who has joined with us this evening in order to enlighten us with the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and also with his melodious kirtans. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. I would also like to thank the IYF South Bangalore team, who have been instrumental in bringing Prabhuji in front of us for this beautiful session. And finally, last but not the least, on behalf of the entire IFIF South Bangalore, I would like to thank all the participants who have regularly been coming to these programs and hearing all the Prerna lectures with rapt attention and asking relevant questions to the speakers. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. I would end the evening by just a simple request that please join the Prerna IYF group, whose link is given in the chat box. You can get all the latest. Yes, Prabhuji.
There is a gift to all of you, because since you have all attended, so I'm going to give a gift to all of you. I'm sharing this in the link in the chat box, so all of you can download this. I hope everybody has got the link.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. So please join the WhatsApp chat group, and you will get all the latest updates with all the upcoming Prerna programs as well as Gita courses in that particular group. Hare Krishna. Also, please download the gift given by Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Any remainder questions will be answered in the next session. So please connect for the next session.